Hi, this is Barbara from KegelOnlineMembership.com, welcoming you to the writing process. You know, I've been doing a lot of writing online, a lot of article marketing, and I've been writing for a very long time. And I realized, because of the questions I was receiving, that a lot of people don't find writing as easy as I do. So I wanted to bring you this little presentation that is designed to introduce you to the three major elements of the writing process. That is invention, composition, and revision. Now, everybody has their own style, and as you progress through these stages and fine-tune your writing skills, you'll be able to skip some of them, like some of us do. But to start out, if you're just starting out, especially in article marketing, you might want to pay attention to this little video. I'll try to keep it as short as I can for you. Let me ask you something. How often do you read manuals? Probably only if you buy something or receive something that has assembly required written on it. You think you could probably put that bicycle together on your own without reading the directions? You probably could if you tried hard enough. Might have a few parts left over, but it'd be a lot and take a lot of time. But it'd be a lot easier if you can read that manual. Follow certain steps in order to get it done properly. And I know I've done this myself. I buy bookcases all the time because I have so many books. And now that I've bought a few of them, I can go through, get them put together pretty quickly. But the first few that I read, I had, quite frankly, put them together upside down. So, you know, you want to consider the same type of philosophy in your writing. There is a process that you go through. And let's consider this the manual for the writing process. Now, this is very simple, really basic, but it will get you through starting your article marketing campaign by writing some really good articles that are accepted and well reviewed. Okay, let's get started. What you will learn from this presentation is how to invent, how to compose, and how to revise. When we write, we conduct three actions. We invent, we compose, and we revise. How do we write? When we write, we conduct three actions. We invent, compose, and revise. And we invent again and compose again and revise again, okay? We want to stop this circle of activity at a certain point when we realize our writing is ready. Inventing is the starting point of the process. We want to go ahead and look at each of these three components so that we can fine-tune your writing, okay, so that you can produce the articles. All of those out there that say you can't write, maybe you didn't pay very close attention in English class in high school, or maybe you haven't gone to college and you never took any writing courses, or maybe you speak another language and English is your second language and you're having trouble with grammar and verbs and how to get your ideas across. This hopefully will help you. So that's the purpose behind this. Inventing. Okay, inventing is the starting point of the process. At this stage, this is the stage when you come up with a game plan or the ideas for your article. Okay, we're going to look at the first stage, the inventing stage, the how-to. Let's look at inventing. Devise a game plan to schedule the writing process. Now, this is something you don't want to rush. You don't want to write down 2 or 3 ideas and start composing immediately. But if you're a lover of procrastination, this is my husband we're talking about here, you really need to have a game plan. You need to have a schedule. You know, there's a saying that says that Gerald Brennan, I've got it right here. I keep it right stuck to my monitor. It says, it is by sitting down to write every morning that one becomes a writer. Those who do not do this remain amateurs. So that's my little tip for the day. Schedule your writing process. Schedule some time every day to work on your writing. You want to ask questions to explore your rhetorical situation. So basically what this is, you know, as part of the inventing process, getting ideas generated for the article you're going to write, especially helpful when you're struggling to get started with writing something. thinking of the article in terms of a rhetorical situation can be a way out of that maze that you find yourself stuck in. Don't think about the article globally, like the big picture or the finished article. You want to think about it in little pieces. That's, it can be too overwhelming otherwise. Think about just answering a few simple questions. For example, what's the purpose of your article? Are you writing an article to sell something? Well, yeah, if we're doing article marketing, blah, 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 excuse me. If we are doing article marketing online, the whole idea is that we probably want to sell something. But how best to do that? Now, if you're doing article marketing, you'll find very quickly that you can't put up a sales message. What you need to do is take the process to another level by creating information that leads to a little 1 or 2 line link to your offer. But what you're going to do is show that you're the expert on that particular niche or that particular product or that particular service, so that when someone reads your article, say, this guy knows a lot about this. Let me go see what else he has to offer. And that's how you get your sales taken care of, or how you get your traffic to your new article. So the purpose is to inform. When you're doing article marketing, remember, your purpose is to inform, to provide quality content. Who's your audience? Are you promoting an acne cure? Your audience is going to be probably 16 to 30. Yeah, 30. You want to look at who your audience is and gear that paper to that audience. You don't want to use a lot of, for example, hip hop references in an article that you're writing for senior citizens, okay? The genre doesn't apply so much to this venue, to article marketing, although if you are doing, let's say, for example, a website that features fiction novels, your article may be talking about fiction, so you have a fiction genre. Maybe you're working on something for health. That genre is going to be health. Basically, genre is another way in the internet world of saying what's your niche, okay? What's your style? Are you very formal? Are you going to write an article that's suitable for an academic inclusion in a academic magazine? Or are you just going to write to your people? Basically, what I do, write in a style that reaches your readers. You don't want your language to be too lofty, too high-handed, all that type of thing. And your research. Part of the inventing is the research. So some of the invention strategies that you can use. You can ask more critical questions, okay? These techniques will help you come up with ideas for your writing. It's best if you're become familiar with all of these, because you never know which one will work today and which ones will work tomorrow. For example, if you've got a writer's block and your mind is just going blank, I call that a brain fart. But if you can't even get a single idea, the words don't come out, try free writing. And then use that as a starting point for clustering ideas. Or if you're having a whole bunch of ideas and you don't know which one to use, or you can't understand how they're related, or that just doesn't come to you, listing and clustering will help you out. So let's build up a bank of strategies that you can use when you're inventing ideas. Okay, critical questions. This technique works for every writer. Ask yourself some simple questions that maybe a nosy newspaper reporter or journalist would ask. What, when, where, how, why? These are the examples. These are the classic topic questions, the stasis questions, the tagmatics. These are the questions, the who, what, when, where, how, and why questions are the ones that will open up the doors for you in your writing. Let's say you write a sentence, Michael walked into the room. Boring. Then be curious. Well, how did Michael walk? What was the room like? Who was in the room? Okay, why did Michael go in there? This is how you build upon that initial idea, okay? Free writing and brainstorming. You want to brainstorm the topic by jotting down any ideas that pop into your mind. Don't guess ahead. Don't assess whether it's relevant or not. Just write it down. You're not thinking about it. You're just writing down anything that pops in your head related to that subject. Later, you can figure out how it fits or doesn't fit. That's part of the revision. You may take it out altogether. But right now, your task is to build up a collection of ideas that you can associate with that topic. Free writing is a useful technique when you experience writer's block, because it gives you a chance to squeeze everything out of your mind. You write down everything that pops into your mind. In cases like this, you're just writing without stopping for 5 or 10 minutes. You're not going to show your writing to anyone. No one's going to see it. Believe me, I delete my free writing immediately when I'm done with it. But it will give you a way to see something physically in front of you that will help spark your creative juices and get you going. Mapping and clustering. You want to invent and organize your ideas visually to explore the processes and the relationships between the ideas. And going back to the example about Mike walked into the room, you have this possibly as your central idea, and then coming down from that, how he walked into the room, what was in the room, why did he walk into the room. Those ideas, you can cluster them, and then under each one of those, you can put details. So mapping and clustering, drawing yourself a physical representation or visual representation of this may help you. Other thing I like to do is keep a journal, and I carry a little pad around with me. I keep a journal, a pad of paper near me all the time, where I just write down little reflections, things I see, things I hear. I might see something on TV that sparks an idea. I might be in the grocery store and see a label that sparks something, and I'll write that down so I can come back later and maybe explore that idea further. So, looking at these strategies, you can see that there's a lot of ways that you can get past that initial blank page syndrome where you're staring at a blank page and don't quite know what to write. All right, now we're going to go into composing, and it looks like this video is going to be probably about 20 minutes long, so feel free to pause it and come back to it. You'll also be able to download it. But anyway, let me go ahead and get through this. Composing. Composing is a process ranging from conducting research on your writing to the first draft. Often people struggle with writing a paper because they mistake composing with drafting. They reduce composing to writing the first draft. In other words, they think they have to have it all nearly perfect except for spelling on the first time they write it out. Therefore, they forget to conduct the research, narrow the topic, develop thesis statements, arrange supportive ideas, all these little things that go together to make a good paper. They escape it when you confuse composing with drafting. So what you want to do is the element of the writing process called composing. Unlike the stereotype of composing is more like writing a draft, it's the other way around. It's a complex process. Inventing is more of a draft stage. Composing is more where you start taking these ideas and you putting them together. You're going to sit down and begin the creation of your article or your thing. You're going to put it in order. You're going to develop your thesis. You're going to have one paragraph lead into the other. That's the composing section. I sort of lump the draft in with the inventing process because that's where you get your basics down, and then composing is where you start cleaning up your sentences, adding more ideas, expanding on the things that you've already started with. So that's the composing process. When you get ready to compose, you've already conducted your research. These are the 5 steps that you need to take when you compose. Research the subject. Make sure that you have credible information to put into your article, okay? Next thing you want to do is narrow the topic. Article marketing is a huge area. I mean, I could go on for days and days and days. You might have already figured that out. Oh, sorry. I could go on for days and days and days about writing, but you need to narrow that topic. You need to develop a thesis or thesis statement. Basically, this is a general central idea. This is what your paper is. This statement alone of 1 or 2 sentences tells everyone what your paper is going to be about. Now that you have your thesis, you're going to begin to organize your ideas. One of the rules of thumb to organizing a paper is that ideas should be related to your thesis and they should support your thesis. The choice or manner of organization can vary. It's up to you. Some people use idea webs. Some people will use outlines. There's a lot of different ways that you can organize your ideas. The idea is that you want your ideas put down in a way that's logically ordered. You don't want to have Michael getting home from the store before he went to the store, okay? So make sure that you organize your ideas and then you write your first draft, okay? Like I said, I do this under revision. For me, I like to have a first draft with the basics in it before I really get down to the nuts and bolts of developing the article. That's how I do it. That helps me. And like I said, you'll find your own way of doing it. But this is the basis, okay? Let's go on. Some of the organizing strategies that you can use are creating an outline, and this is an example of an outline. You have your introduction, you have the context. That's basically how are you presenting this. It's what the introduction grabs the reader's attention. The context or the body consists of supporting paragraphs that help you elaborate on the main claim. It's the body for the whole paper. And the conclusion is you're going to re-emphasize and restate your whole idea Michael went to the store to buy flowers for his mother for her birthday, and then when Michael bought the flowers for his mother for his birthday, you're restating that in different words, he was able to make her very happy. I mean, it's a real simple example, but you get the idea. During the body, you might tell about the different things that Michael went through to be able to buy those flowers for Mama. Okay, so you want to create an outline that keeps you focused, gives you an idea of where you're going. Revising. This is the final element of the writing process and leads to reinventing and recomposing. One of the things I like to do before I do my revision is put my writing aside, get up, go get a fresh cup of coffee, go to the bathroom, walk the dogs, take a few minutes away or a few hours away, and sometimes even a day or two away before I come back to do the revision with clear eyes. You know, it's very difficult to see mistakes in your writing when what your mind is not seeing what your eyes are actually viewing, and that's a big problem when you're in revision. One of the other things I like to tell people to do is read your paper aloud. How does it sound? A lot of times our ears will pick up things that our eyes and our mind won't recognize. So quickly, you want to revise. And in the process of revising, you may have a sentence or two that said, you know, I think I can do this better. That's reinventing. Or you may have something in your paper that gives you an idea to add something new. So you're inventing again. And then you're composing again, revising again. And this keeps continuing on until you finally reach a point where you think, I'm done. On revising, you want to review, and then you want to proofread. Proofreading is vital, especially online. And I know sometimes when I'm really tired, and I'll run a quick spell check, and I'll go back the next day and say, oh my gosh, it's not that the word is spelled wrong, it's the wrong version of the word, like lead and lead and lead, or lead and led and lead and losing and lose and loss, and I get confused on all of them all the time. And sometimes a spell checker won't pick them up. For example, C and C, S-E-E and S-E-A. Well, both are spelled correctly, but if you've typed the wrong one, it just really can mess up your whole flow of your paper. So make sure you proofread, and at best, if you have someone that can proofread for you that you can trust, have them look over your work as well. Okay, make sure your thesis is clear. It has a clear focus what your paper is about. You want to make sure the communication of your ideas is clear. One thing that we see a lot in article marketing is the use of bullet points, so that's something you might want to consider. Short, concise sentences, bullet points. Readers want to get through the information quickly online. You want to make sure your paper is organized from the general to the specific and back to the general. Okay, you have a general idea, you have the specific details, and then you are closed with a restatement of the general idea. Is your paragraph structure correct? Where do your paragraphs break? One paragraph is one idea. One paragraph is one thought process. So make sure that your paragraph structure is correct. And then your conclusion, again, restates the thesis and an overview of the main ideas. Some of the reviewing strategies you can use are to refocus, to reorder. There's a lot of things to do. You can add things. You can cut things out. You know, when you're reviewing your paper, you might find that, you know, you're running along writing your paper and you have a sentence in there that really has a little bit deeper focus. You can write a little bit better paper or stronger paper. If you focus on that, you might want to reorder and change things around. So that's, you know, part of your reviewing strategy. And as I said, if the thesis is strong but the ideas drift away from the main claim, you need to reorder. Make sure your supporting claims follow that main idea. You might have to add some more things in. You might have to cut things out. And let me tell you something. Cutting is horrible, especially for someone like me that loves the use of words and loves to have a lot of rhetoric going on. Cutting is like drowning the baby. But, you know, sometimes you just really have to cut it. Somewhere you have to cut it. So unless you run your own blog like I do and you can write whatever you want to, if you're trying to do article marketing, which I also do, by the way, you need to be able to cut that article short and have it ready and clear, coherent, and relevant to what you're trying to portray or what you're trying to get across. Okay. Make sure your paper appears professional, you have correct spelling and punctuation, your sentences are clear and easy to read, and you have documentation. Now, we don't do documentation so much on the internet these days, but if you are writing a professional paper, for example, I did a paper on stress management. You can find that under my eZine articles. And in that paper, I provided links to my resources so people that wanted more information could find that. In addition to my own links. My links to my resources were a whole separate section of the paper. And I do that a lot on my own website, my writing website especially, and some of my other articles where I've written articles that were more professional, more academically oriented, or more, that type of thing. So depending on what kind of paper, what your tone is for your paper or the style of your paper, you may want to add documentation. Some of the other strategies you need to do are run your spell and grammar checker. By now we're all using computers, so we have that. Read the paper aloud and backwards. Sometimes reading it backwards can open up insights. Speak with your instructor. Haha, that's me. Obviously, you probably are not in school right now. Some of you are, but a lot of you are not in school any longer. You don't have an instructor. But if you run into a problem, maybe you can talk to a spouse or a neighbor or a parent or a child. You got a kid in college that's taking English 101 or 102 or 203 or whatever it is. You can fix it. And remember, this computer is not the end-all, do-all. The computer is only as good as the operator. The computer is only as good as the operator. I'll say that one more time. The computer is only as good as the operator. If you make mistakes, don't rely on the computer 100%. Like I said, C, S-E-E, and C, S-E-A, the computer won't know the difference. So make sure you use the computer wisely and make sure you don't just accept what it gives you. Visit your writing lab. And even though most of us are no longer students, most of the people that will be reading this, most people don't realize that they can go to their local community college or sometimes even to their university, walk into the university or community college library and go back to the back area where they have the labs and talk to anyone, and almost any one of the people in there will be more than happy to help you proof and revise your article. You don't have to be a student. They're there to help, and these people, especially the student helpers, the student tutors, they are there to learn as well. And being able to have something other than a purely academic article a lot of times will be exciting to them because they get something from the real world, and they'll be more than happy to help you. So don't overlook that resource. So basically, just to recap, how do we write? We invent, we compose, and we revise. If you follow these steps, and again, you want to go around and around and around. It seems like a never-ending battle. You need to know when to quit. But if you follow these 3 steps, should help you to get an article up and running and ready to go and published online. And before you know what happened, you'll be a pro because you will have done this a few times. I hope that you take this information and become the expert author that you really want to be. I know you can do this. It's not hard. Download this video, replay it, use it side by side. There are a lot of good resources online. OWL at Purdue University is fabulous. You can get in there free, and there's a lot of help, especially for those of you that don't speak English as a native language. Remember, read it aloud, follow the steps, and I'm going to be looking for your articles. Send me a link to your first article. I'd love to read it. And I'll even post it online once you've got it cleared through eZine articles. I don't want to step on your toes. Make sure you get it cleared at eZine first. Remember, eZine articles wants a first-time submission. They don't want something you posted somewhere else. So make sure those articles are original. Look at my other videos on KegelOnlineMembership.com about you posting articles at eZine articles. There's a lot of good information in there. Don't forget the 12 tips to success, the 2-minute success tips. That's also up and ready. They're all short videos, not going on and on and on like I do. But even though this is going into 30 minutes now, I hope that this gave you some information that will really, really help you. Good luck to in your efforts, and remember, be sure and visit me at KegelOnlineMembership.com. Ask me your questions using the green contact button, and I will do my very, very best to help you and get you going online as quickly as possible. Good luck, everybody, and happy writing.